Hi, welcome to our first beer review. My name is Matthew Bartholomew.
And I'm Michael McLean.
And we're here to do a classic Pilsner. This is a Bohemia Pils. So I hope you get ready. We're going to go over a little bit about the beer itself, the overview, and talk about, how it tastes.
And yeah, everything. We'll give a little brief history on the style of Pilsners. We're gonna talk classic beers here for a minute. I've got my beer poured here. Matthew's pouring his Pilsner Urquell right now. And we'll just break right down into the sensory first here. Right off the bat, we've got a brilliantly clear Pilsner with the bubbles just floating right up into heaven, as Pilsners should. We've got great clarity.
Yeah, wow. Crystal clear, as it should.
Wonderful biscuity, bready aroma of the Pilsner malts. Those of you who like classic Pilsners, you know exactly what we're talking about. Those of you who don't, haven't tried Pilsners, I highly recommend it. They're a classic style. They're a difficult beer to do for a number of reasons. Will do well, I should say.
Nothing to hide.
Nothing to hide.
The Pilsner malt is the standout on the aroma for me. It's like crackery, grainy, real rustic. This comes from classic Pilsner malt. This is probably Moravian from the Czech Republic. It is grainy rusticness, which is what I look for in a good Pilsner. A lot different than, say, an American Pilsner, or what is really, I think, the most comical association with American Pilsner, which is Miller Lite.
Yeah, I mean, calling that a Pilsner is... a great slap into the face to whoever made this beer at Pilsner Urquell, who took the time and the effort to make sure that they have the right ingredients. And if you were to stack these two against each other, I mean, maybe on color you could compare this to a Miller Lite, but other than that, they're in two completely different ballparks.
This is got to be on the low end of the spectrum for color for a Pilsner. I mean, this is brilliantly clear, but like pale yellow.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not pale yellow, but definitely pale gold. It's almost like a perfect yellow
straw.
Beautiful. Which for the style itself, it only has a very small margin. It's 3.5 to 6 for a Bohemia Pilsner. So that is very, very light in color. We measure the color by the SRM, which is 3.5 to 6.
For those of you who don't know what SRM is, it's basically the scale that people judge beer color and clarity on. That starts at 0 and goes to, I believe, what's the highest, 40?
No, I mean, it technically goes higher, near 100, but you can't, anything over like 35 is just black. And so I think it could be 60.
Anything above that, irrelevant, we could say.
Yeah, it's opaque.
Yeah. Another characteristic that I'm getting on both the nose and the taste, the flavor of this beer is the very typical to and important to Czech Pilsners would be the Saaz hops.
Floral. Wonderfully. This beer is like running through like a grain, a meadow of grain and flowers. It's just spring day with the clearness. And
the scene from The Sound of Music when she's on top of the mountain.
I couldn't agree more. This is...
I mean, who's to say she didn't have a bottle of this in her satchel at that point?
Probably very much she did.
I'd like to imagine that she did.
Going into the flavor, I get really nice, again, that echo of the rustic malt. Mm-hmm. It's got a nice, firm bitterness, but I wouldn't confuse this with what a lot of us consider bitter with the American craft beer side. We're tentatively pushing limits on what bitterness is. This is a firm, I'm guessing it's somewhere in the 30s, high 30s?
Sure.
Mid 30s. We measure bitterness in IBUs, International Bittering Units. It's a quantitative measure that you can do by having a lab do or measure that for you. But it's easily a crisp finish that comes partly from the bitterness, but also from the higher effervescence of this beer.
And I was just going to touch on that. I'm getting, when a lot of times when people hear bitter, especially here in America, they're thinking a hop dump, super IPA, dank, you name it, 87 and higher IBUs. This it does have a bitterness, but it's a very light, crisp bitterness. I think you touched on it well.
I'll touch on the background a little bit of Pilsner. we're actually drinking the first considered Pilsner. Did you know that, Mike?
I did, actually, yes. Pilsner Urquell is very well known amongst the beer drinking community as being the very flagship of the Pilsner style.
So Pilsner Urquell is kind of a German variance of the word. The brewery's name in the Czech Republic is Przinski Prazdroni, and I'm probably chopping that up, but it's somewhere along there. It actually it references its namesake. Pilsner is known to us because of the actual name of the brewery, Przinski, which is founded in Pilsen, Czech Republic. So this was the first. This is kind of where it started. And this, at this time, in like the mid-1800s, is where we had finally come to a point in our malting, which is the process of bringing grains in from the farms and preparing them for brewing. We've been able to dry the grains in a way that has produced a very light-colored malt. Before this time, we did a lot of wood burning, which was where color and definitely smoke flavor was brought into the actual
roasty, smoky, dark, almost meaty German Rauch beers.
So I believe we can dedicate this beer to science.
To science.
To science. So the very pale malt was one of the first times we were able to make beer that was this light. And with itself, they made a very lightly colored beer with effervescence, and they used their local very coveted Satz hops, as well as their this newly made grain, which is why this grain is got such wonderful rustic graininess. It wasn't malted away with the kiln drying of other malts.
Yeah, you really taste the full kernel of the grain.
Really, yeah, very good.
But after Pilsner Urquell made this beer, as we're enjoying it right now, it was light, it was effervescent, it was something new. As Matthew said, science was involved. This was something that had never been done in beer before, and it kind of opened the door of drinkability to beer. It kind of Pilsners and lagering after the original Pilsners started, lagering kind of exploded in popularity.
World dominated.
And I mean, that brought us to the point of American domestic lagers, and there's kind of I like to call it the international standard lager. I don't know if that's a legitimate term by the BJCP or not. But having been to a number of countries, you can go into any country and order that country's national brand, and it's going to taste incredibly close to a Stella Artois or a Budweiser or some derivative of this internationally marketable, very universal lager style that came about as a result of the success of the traditional Pilsners.
Do you want to hear a fun fact, Mike?
I would love to hear a fun fact.
The actual Pilsner Urquell, was created not by a Czech.
And who was it created by?
Przinski Prazdroni brought in this very well-trained and well-known brewer from Bavaria. So it has ties, which then, as this style became widely known in that region, it is crossed into Germany, which we have the German Pilsner. Mm-hmm. And then as German immigrants and other Eastern European immigrants moved into the United States, we have developed our own American Pilsner, which is a cross with some of our local grains like maize or corn.
And at this point, you're just to clarify, you are talking about a craft Pilsner, not the American standardized.
No. The classic American Pilsner.
Okay.
It's different than the American Light Lager, according to the BJCP, but it is also it should have corn. Mm-hmm. It should use corn adjunct, because that was our classic grain. But it also has more of a crispness, a little more firm bitterness than the American Light Lager. But now we have some wonderful breweries doing, craft breweries, we'll say, doing fantastic renditions of a Czech or a German Pils that are using those classic Moravian malts or Satz hops or Howitzer hops. They're using some of the classic ingredients and doing it as an all barley malted beer.
Yeah, a few that come to mind, in my opinion, are our local hometown heroes and employers, Banter's Pilsner. They do a really good one. The Lagunitas Pilsner is very good. Thanks a lot in part to Mr. Dave Hoops himself. The Sierra Nevada Nooner has gotten a huge amount of popularity in our hometown of Duluth. And it is a fantastic example of a Pilsner.
That is one of the great breweries of the U.S. for sure.
They've been around for a long time. They are masters of their craft. You can knock them for being bigger than they should be or what have you, but it's really it's an illegitimate argument because they continue to produce quality beer. And regardless of size, if you're producing quality beer according to good ingredients and good brewing methods and proper quality control, size is really irrelevant. It's all about quality.
And I think we should probably take a trip out to Chico.
To Chico.
Anyways, thank you so much for joining us on this podcast. We're looking forward to do more reviews or beer drinking. I forget what it is.
Podcasting, beer reviews, video, none such. Watch out because we're going to be making a lot of everything, and we hope that you join us on our voyage.